Hey everybody, we're live on the air. We got former NHRA Top Fuel Dragster driver Cory McClenathan. How you doing, Cory?
Good, Dave. Hey, thanks for having me today.
No problem. So how's retirement going?
Well, you know what? I'm already bored. So I went to Pomona and, I went all 3 days and, I didn't realize just how tough it was just for me to be a spectator and not be in the car. But, I definitely miss it. There's no doubt. There's some other categories that still kind of, call my name. And, what my biggest deal was when I retired, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that I was retiring out of top fuel dragster only. So there are some more pro classes. There's some really cool sportsman classes out there. I don't think I'll ever be able to walk away completely, but now I've got myself in a whole situation with. We just announced we're going to put on a drag race for all VWs in Las Vegas on October 17th and 18th. So now I got my hands full trying to make that transition from driver or owner, that type of thing, onto the promoting side. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I miss being in the top fuel car. There's nothing that drives like that. But I would like to get my license in funny car, and that way at least I have a crossover. And if I ever had the opportunity, I would definitely be able to move into a funny car for somebody. So I'll never close those doors. You know how that goes.
Now, how about nostalgia racing? Would you do any nostalgia racing?
I've never been over, to like Bakersfield for one of the nostalgia races, but I'm afraid that if I go, I'm going to want one like right away, so, or at least want to drive one, so, but everybody, my best friends, everybody, they're killing me. They're like, hey, you gotta go. And so I guess we're all going to pile in a motorhome and go to the next one. And I'm looking forward to that because, I know a lot of the people that have, gone on to do a lot of stuff in nostalgia racing so it'll be good to see everybody. Plus, look at some of the actions and see what they're doing with these cars because as well as I do. I mean, they're coming out of the woodwork. They're all over the place. It's been a huge category, and it's kind of nice to see that kind of come back and give everybody something to do when they're not doing NHRA stuff or VW racing or what have you. They can have those meets, and they're huge. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know Ron Capps does that nostalgia racing.
Yeah, and he told me about it. He said, "Man, you go there, and you're going to want to be in one." I thought, "Oh God, here we go." So it's one of those deals, Like I said, we can't just step out of a race car. It's not in my blood. So I'm going to be racing something this year. I just don't know what it's going to be exactly, but right now I am pushing on and talking to a few people about getting my funny car crossover. So, but even that's expensive. We're talking approximately $10,000 a run. Doing a crossover is normally 3 passes, moderate and 2 full, and so that's 30 grand right there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I need to make sure my sponsors are on board and see if I can't get them to pay for part of it, so it'll set me up where I can, move ahead and do it sooner than later. And that way, if something comes up during the year, I mean, there's a couple guys that have spare cars. Tim Wilkerson is doing that. How Dell did it last year. I mean, there's a few of them. So,
Right.
and me and Timmy get along great. I asked him about his program and everything, and I think that's probably where I'm going to go to get my license is with Tim Wilkerson.
So now, Cory, you began your Top Fuel dragster driving in 1991, correct?
A little bit in 1990, but really getting after it in 91. I think we ran a couple little, test sessions basically in 90, but yes, sir. The first time was in the Winter Nationals, in the Burnout Box in 91, and it was a crazy feeling even then.
But your drag racing career began before 91, back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. No, I was driving a 56 oval window at all the bug-ins when I was 17 years old, and did that car for a few years. I went to work for Autocraft, building all the midget motors, and that took me away from racing a little bit, just because the midget motors back then, they weren't, 6 cylinders or V8s or anything like that. They were all, pretty much done by Autocraft. So we'd have, 12, 15 motors a week that we had to get apart and get back out because they're not allowed to work on them. They're tagged by us. So back in the day, that's really where I started to figure out, hey, I can take this Autocraft motor setup and I can put it in a dragster. I can put it in a funny car. If they're just too big to put in a bug, unless you reconfigure everything, which nowadays everybody does. But back then, we don't want to mess up a 56 oval window. We knew what kind of money it'd be worth nowadays. So we stuck with what we had, but doing that and then moving into the dragster in 1983, and we did that. We went with the Autocraft motor. Started out on just 48s, and then we started putting some nitrous to it. That was in the Carnegie funny car that we had after that. Same motor, but turboed and injected. So, horsepower way up off the charts on that deal. Through a power glide system in the funny car, and it had the quick change rear end in it that everybody's been using in all the roundy round cars from way back when. So it's one of those deals. And Keith Landreau from way back, he used to run the No Dose dragster. He helped us a lot with setups and trying to get that ready. So that was a good car. I love driving funny cars. I think that's why now I want to do it with a V8 funny car. But, we were running pretty good numbers even for way back then. So the dragster came in 83, the funny car came in 86, and then we went to alcohol dragster after that. And of course, like we talked about, up in the Top Fuel finally.
Yeah, Top alcohol dragster you started like 89?
Yes, sir. Yeah, ran a little bit in 87, but really, went for it in 89. Think I ended up in the top 10. I was lucky enough to win my very first race, which was up in Vandermeer, up in Denver, and I was blown away. I love the sport, but being lucky enough to come out and win, and I was racing Blaine Johnson in the final. So, talk about a tough competitor. They were killing it back then, him and Allen. So, it was really cool to have them in the final round. Super close race at the end, and got to win our first one. So, after that, Dave, I thought, hey, this is going to be easy. I didn't win another race for like 8 months after that. So it is a humbling sport. Let's put it that way. It has been since I started, and no matter what you're in, it's humbling, and it kind of keeps you well grounded, actually.
So what made you get into drag racing in the first place?
Well, to be quite honest, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I grew up with a love for dogs and animals that, was far beyond anything any other kid had. And, even though I loved the drag racing stuff, my dad owned D&D VW, so I would help him. That's really where I kind of honed my skills as far as working on the cars and learning what they're supposed to do before, getting in one. But yeah, I was going to be a veterinarian, and the faster I went in race car, and then, in 93, when Larry Miner walked up and said, hey, I want to pay you to drive my dragster, the McDonald's car. That was my first paid gig, and I was hooked. I mean, I am making money, doing something I love to do, and trying to win races. I was fully in, so the veterinarian thing was out, and I was a drag racer, and that's, I just think back in the day, those are the two things I really, really wanted to do, and I feel blessed to have had a career that kept food on the table for me and my family.
So, what was the experience like for you for the first time getting behind the wheel of a, Top Fuel dragster?
Well, and everybody told me when I was in the alcohol dragster, they kept telling me it's not much different than that, but it doesn't pull on the other end. Forget that. When I got the nitro car, that thing started up, I was terrified. I was thinking, I'm going to be that guy that shuts it off and never makes it to the water box. But after doing a couple burnouts and backing up and, getting the hang of things and making a few launches, I was just unbelievably, it's just crazy the way they pull on the other end. So yeah, once again, I was hooked, hook, line, sinker, the whole thing. So, in our old days, it was me, mom and dad, my sister, grandparents. I mean, we were fully a family operation only. And that's what I really like about the kind of guys today that do that. You got the Duns out there, Wilkerson, all these guys that, Jaggy, they all work as a family to try to work together. And, I miss that part of it. I really do.
Now, when you started out drag racing way back when, did you have any drivers that inspired you back then?
Oh gosh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Kenny Bernstein, when he was in Funny Car, I liked him back, way back in the day. Don Prudhomme, always looked at him. Garlett, Shirley being the first woman to break into the sport. Connie Coletta. Ed the Ace McCullough, probably one of my favorites, actually, just because I liked his attitude about it. If he didn't win, it wasn't good. Second place was never good enough. If you wanted to tussle at the other end of the track, old Ace McCullough, he was all up for it. You see these things nowadays where they have little spats up at the top end, and I'm thinking, man, back in the day, it wasn't nothing like that. It was let's swing for it. So it's amazing to see that it's come to this point. And I get not putting your hands on somebody, but I mean, some of the best times we all talk about are some of the top end fist fights we used to have. So a lot goes on down there that a lot of people don't know about, and to see it nowadays, it's like, man, you can't wear your heart on your sleeve. You get out of a Top Fuel car and you're upset about something, and they got the camera right there in your face. I mean, you gotta check yourself right away. So the sport has changed, and you can grow with it, but man, I was one of those young guys that had the quick temper, and hey, I was a helmet thrower. I did not like to lose. It's got nothing about being a spoiled kid. This is all about, I want to put that car in the winner's circle, worse than the other guy or anybody else on the property for that matter. So that's the one thing that I've said all along. I do not come here just to mess around. I want to win.
Yeah, we had that crazy event last year with Steve Torrance and Cameron Furr.
Yeah, and that was, a lot of that was really taken out of context. The fans and everything were kind of hard on Stevie, but at the same time, there were some words said at the top end that weren't good on both ends. So, I kind of get both sides, but I do understand where I think they're being a little bit tough on Stevie. He's already apologized publicly. He apologized at the ceremony at the end of the season. There's not much else he can do except for move forward. And the same with Cameron. I mean, he should just move forward, and I think that's kind of where we are. But yeah, it's for some reason it's kind of put a bad taste in some of the fans' mouth, and it's like, you know what? Wait a second. You guys used to love when we grabbed a hold of the drivers down at the other end back in the day, and Diamond P days and that type of stuff, And now, it's just changed, Dave. It's very corporate. It's very they're on you with the cameras from the time you get out of the car down there. till the time of you leave. So you're catching a lot more than you used to. But man, back in the day, it was a swing fest. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So now back to inspirational people. How about a guy like Chris Carmacini, who's still out there racing? Was he inspirational to you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Chris and I get along great. We race each other a lot. He gets a lot of his parts from DSR, so we all kind of would go through our trailers, find out where we could get him that would help him out, get him to the next race, and he's just awesome. He would bring back a lot of our stranger rims for us and take them up to Chicago, get them fixed, and next time down, he'd bring them back to us. So, I mean, he's just a class act, just one of the nicest guys, and to be doing it at his age right now, I think he's just having some fun. I think you'll probably see his niece step in the car pretty soon, and she's going to get her license, and that might lead on to something different for that family. But he's definitely had a great career.
No, we're talking about Krista.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Krista Baldwin.
Yeah, they've talked about putting Krista Baldwin in the car and letting her have a couple passes and getting her license and just kind of get her up to speed slowly but surely. But she's still pretty young, so she's got a long way to go. She'll be just fine. She's been around this sport forever. I think she'll do good.
Yeah, the Top Fuel dragster seems like they get more and more drivers all the time. We got so many Top Fuel dragsters out there now.
Yeah, I mean, and the biggest thing is me coming back to the 3 races I did last year. I was lining up against people that, I mean, like look at little Proc. I mean, me and Jimmy were together when Austin, and it was like growing up type of deal. So I mean, I almost changed that kid's diapers. That's how long I've known that kid. So lining up next to him, I really want to do that for. So for some photos and stuff like that, trying to stay with them on the starting line as far as reaction time. I did my darndest, and I guess I was trying really hard to stay with him. If he had a 60, I had a 70. If he had a 40, I had a 55. I mean, we're really, really kind of dicing there. And I talked to him afterwards. He's like, yeah, I go back to the pit. I give him my slip, and they're giving me a hard time how those old guys leaving with me and everything. I mean, it's just the competitive nature that we have. But to see these kids grow up and get in cars, a lot of them I don't even know personally. It's that different. Yeah,
there's so many underdog teams out there now trying to go against the big dogs now.
Yeah, and it's hard too. I mean, I've been on both sides of it. I've been the privateer. I've been the hired gun. It's been with the big teams. It's one thing about the big teams, you get all the good parts all the time, and then you kind of work your way down to the middle sets of teams that are either one car teams or guys that just want to come out for a few races. But if you don't stay with this stuff all the time, you're going to be running in the back, and that's something that we had happen with with Dexter and I. We should have tested before we went, and we didn't do it, and we paid dearly for it. But those are good times. I love Dexter Tuttle. He's awesome. So I would drive his car anytime, away from NHRA, as far as if he put on a different event or a match race or something, I may do that. But it's just time to do something different. So my race class business that builds off-road bodies for Pro Light, Pro 2, Pro 4, we're just now getting into the busy season. Not to mention that I announced that I'm putting on that race in Vegas right before Pomona. So that's going to be, like I said, October 18th. And we get to actually run on the 17th with some other cars, test and tune, and then race on the 18th. So that is going to be a monster. I thought it would be just a nice, putting on a nice show for folks and, telling them I still love VW very much. I'm very much into them. And now it looks like it's going to be just a monster. So I'm excited for it. I just hope we're ready for it. That's the biggest thing.
So after all the years you did Top Fuel Dragster, what kept the passion, and what kept you passionate about doing it?
As far as Top Fuel cars?
Yeah, Top Fuel Dragster driving.
Oh
What kept
gosh,
you passionate?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I drove for a lot of good drivers. Drove for Joe Gibbs, Larry Minor. I mean, it's just like, it's amazing. The Gwen family, and really just am very lucky to have surrounded myself with the people that go out and do this all the time and do a great job at it. But I mean, my motivation is to win championships, and I was a 4-time runner-up, and that kills me to this day. So that's the hardest part. But for me to be able to back up right now and say, okay, I'm not going to retire. You would need the top teams to drive for to be able to win a championship right now. And they're mega dollars, and we don't have it. And I still chase money for other things, and it's just really hard to come up with the money that it takes to compete with the Capcos and, Connie and Don and everybody else. So, I'll lay in wait back here, and I'll get my funny car license, and when the time's right, I'll strike and try to do 2 or 3 races this year. That's my goal. And if I could win a race in a funny car, that would be that much better. So.
Okay, now, so what would you consider to be the fondest memory of your drag racing career?
You know what? If you can't win the championship, it's winning Indy, and I was lucky to win it twice, 1996 and 1999. Unfortunately, in '96, it was a little bit of a rough weekend. That's when we lost Blaine Johnson, Elmer Trett on the Top Fuel bike. It really was a psychological weekend to try to get through and get yourself back up in the winning condition that you need to be as a driver. But we did it. I had Lee Baird tuning the McDonald's car back then. And, he had a good talk with me, and I was able to go in focused on race day and knock him out, and win the race and, present the trophy to Alan Johnson and his family. And, it just, Blaine was way too young, way too good of a driver. He was part of our future, and it just cut short when you see that. I happened to be next to him when it happened as well. So it's like, I'm not sure if things happen for a reason or what have you, but we had done a wheel stand. I went to shut it off, saw Blaine in trouble, turned the fuel pumps back on, everything started back up and went down. I was the first one at the scene, and then I backed up when everybody else got there. But we hate to see people do that, especially friends, people we know. I know we learn more safety wise, but it shouldn't have to come to that to make sure you're the safest.
Now, when you were out on the starting line for races, did you have any previous rituals or superstitions at all?
Oh, well, I always put on my uniform, my driving suit exactly the same way. I always go back and unplug my own chutes and check the wing, and then I give the guys the pins, fist pump everybody and get everybody ready and going and thinking about the race car, and then I climb in from the left side so around here, the driver's side of the car. So that's my ritual of how I get in. I feel awkward if I have to get in the car from the other side. So for whatever reason, that's my deal. I always, cross my heart and, think about my kid and let's start it up and get going. But it doesn't matter what you do. Once they start up that motor, everything else goes blank.
So now, what were some of your favorite tracks to run on?
You know what? Pomona is one of my favorite tracks because the nostalgia of it. We start and stop here. Love to run Vegas. Love to run Charlotte. Denver, another one. Oh my gosh! I mean, they've made so many nice ones. Seattle's really cool because it's back in the trees. It's a little bit tough to get in and out of, but it's well worth it once you get there and get parked, because there's so many trees and they're making oxygen, and it changed the tune-ups of the car. So people don't understand that all of a sudden, hey, I got the same setup, and I'm smoking the tires every time. Well, you got to realize you have all that oxygen just falling out of these trees right to you, and change the setup. So you got to work with the fuel system a little bit. But that's definitely one of my favorite tracks as well.
Now, how about a track like Route 66 in Joliet, Illinois?
Definitely another Bruton Smith track. Bruton owns Vegas. Bruton owns Charlotte. That is the mega. We had the first 4 wide there, and I got to win that one. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Definitely.
Now, did you like the 4 wide racing?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I kept it simple. A lot of guys kind of overthink it, and they make mistakes, and they get red lit, or they come in late, and instead of one guy being mad at you for hanging them out, you got 3 people, you got girls and guys mad at you at the other end. I mean, there's been some interesting conversations down there as well, but, at the same time, I mean, for me, it was easy. I knew what I needed to do to get in at the right time to be ready to cut a good light and make a good run. So we went with a game plan, and it worked out really well for us. And I'm hoping someday, maybe I can do that in funny cars. That would be awesome.
So, what was your fastest run time in a Top Fuel dragster?
Let's see here. Was it Englishtown, and ran 375 at 325. And that stayed low for a long time to 1,000 foot. I think we did it 3 or 4 more times that year, and maybe one of them did it, but it really took a while for them to get that one. That's when I was with Todd Okahara and Scotty Okahara, Phil Schuler. I mean, they were killing it. These guys were really good. They were funny car guys, and when Don said, hey, they're going to come with you, I was excited, because there's a short window of tuning in a funny car in the clutch, and there's a much bigger window in a dragster. So a lot of times funny car guys will be more aggressive, and you'll see the dragster run just that much better. So yeah, I'd have to say that. I think in a quarter mile back in the day, I ran 442 at 336. Now that's getting it right there. That mile an hour was definitely, it was making the body do weird things, and Goodyear never actually built their tire to go anywhere near 340. So I'm sure they're nervous about some of the numbers they've seen nowadays, but they've gone in development, they've stiffened up their tires, and I think they're ready now to be able to go over 340, but not back in the day. Back in the day, we did that, got close to that, and they were at our pits going, you better slow this thing down. I don't care how you do it, but you better slow it down. So, which is not in our DNA, so I'm not sure how that ended up.
Yeah, you have that need for speed.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a run what you brung type of deal, and now they implement all these rules and everything. It's just not what we signed on for when we first started. So all the hardcore quarter mile guys is, bring your fastest machine, and let's see who can actually win. So it's I still have that mindset, but I do understand the 1,000 foot. I lost some really good friends because of things not being 1,000 foot. So I would take my friends back over that any day. So I'm for it.
So now, what have been some of the biggest milestones that you reached in your drag racing career, Cory?
You know what? Kenny was the first one to go 300. I was the first one to go over 320. So that was kind of cool. Let's see. Back in the day, we were trying to get out of the... We were trying to get out of the 80s and into the 70s, and I ran 478 and 479 both and track records on both ends in English, and not Englishtown, I'm sorry, in Maple Grove, and went on to win the race. So I mean that was a good weekend. And I won the Western Swing, which is hard to do. I think we have 7 people that have done it, in all the years of drag racing. So some of those type of things stick out. But I don't know. I'm not the guy that toots my horn. I just really love drag racing. The people, the fans, the need for speed to go fast. That's really what I've gotten into it for. I was never the, hey, I want to be the claim to fame type of guy. So I'm good with it. I've been very blessed. I've had a good career, 34 Top Fuel wins, one less than Big Daddy Don Garlitz. And, that's nothing to be ashamed of.
So now that you're retired, do you have any time to do any hobbies that you weren't able to do while you were drag racing?
Oh, definitely. I have a 66 Nova, Pro Stock Nova, or Pro Street Nova, I should say, to be honest. And I'm getting ready to twin turbo that car. And then right now, a friend of mine just got done finishing up my short block for my VW motors. It's going to go in my 1956, the very first drag car of mine. My dad and I kept it all these years. It's now black and has the cowl look going for it. And I'm going to put 2387 in that with some MB's parts and Jackson Ketty carburetors, and we'll see what it runs. It's a full pan car, so I would think probably run 1150s, 1140s, something like that. But it's still a fun little car. So those are my projects right now. It's everything else kind of goes by the wayside when you drag racing. So now it's back to the house and taking care of stuff and spending time with my mom. She's almost 80 now, and she needs me more than ever. And so I want to be there for her.
That's good. So now, if you were able to time travel and go backwards in the time, would you have done anything differently with the drag racing career?
Yeah, the one thing that would have really made the difference is in 1992, we did not go to Canada. And if I just would have went there and done a burnout, I'd have won the championship. But we didn't go there because we're just funding. It was a family dragster. I tried to rent somebody else's car. They were going and driving themselves. So all I needed was one more round. But then again, Dave, it's like I tell everybody else. You run all these races. It would have been one more round anywhere, and I would have been the champion.
Yeah.
So I've lost a couple like that. Small points, and it's tough to take. But you know what? At my age, when I was that young, just being in the mix with Joe Amato and Bernstein and Prudhomme and actually finishing second ahead of Bernstein and Amato winning the championship. Eddie Hill was still there. I was in some pretty badass company, and a lot of guys my age can't. A lot of the kids nowadays can't say that. They race guys like me back when they came in. So I think I grew up in a really cool era where I did get to line up against Shirley. I did get to line up against Don Garlitz. You name it, I got to race them all. So really, Tom the Mongoose McCune, when he ran Jack Clark's car, I got to race him. So you look back at that and I say, okay, that's one thing that to me sticks out as far as a milestone than anything else. I raced all the old school racers, and I raced all the new school guys. So I think that's something I think about a lot.
Yeah, you lined up with a lot of legends.
Yeah. It's like somebody asked me the other day, how many passes have you made? I could not tell you. Probably thousands of passes down the strip. It's become second nature, but at the same time, feel lucky to do it. Like I said, I was very blessed in my career, and I was on the road a lot. That's a tough thing, and people don't realize that sometimes, but it takes a toll on you after a while. So right now, retired. To be honest with you, I'm at my house. I've done what I've done for the day. And when I get off the phone with you, I'm going to go for a walk with the dog. And really, it's it's kind of nice to have my weekends to do what I want to do.
Yeah, and then back years ago, racing, you got to do the big smoky burnouts, which they don't get to do anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Once they realize, hey, this big smoky burnout is not what it used to, doesn't do what we thought it would do. We kind of had to reel it back in. So obviously between that and the fuel tanks in the front, we didn't want to use that ballast, so wouldn't do a wheel stand. Now this is before the wheelie bars, and even after the wheelie bars, if your tank is low in the front, it'll pick it up, set it down, and unload the rear end. So yeah, you got to be really careful on what you do for ballast nowadays, and that fuel is ballast. It's very heavy, 8.1 ounces a gallon, I believe. So it's a pretty heavy fuel.
Now, did you do any dry hopping back in the day?
Oh yeah, yep. I was in it early enough to do dry hops, and did it with the alcohol dragster as well. And then when they said no more, I was like, really? That was actually kind of the fun thing, to back up and they get out of the way and boom, hit a big dry hop, and it definitely echoes in the stands as well. So it was fun to do. It really was. But, yeah, we do things a little bit differently nowadays, but it definitely helps us get through that 60-foot in that shake zone going by the trees. That's the biggest thing.
All right, now, Cory, I'm going to ask you a few fun questions here, and then we'll close out the interview. What is your favorite food to eat?
My favorite what?
Favorite food
that I eat? Oh, my God. Mexican food.
All right, what's your favorite beverage to drink?
Probably Coke Zero.
Favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie of all time? Oh, my gosh. That's a tough one because I'm a total movie guy. But I would say, God, I would say Wick. I mean, he made 3 of them, and he's just a very action-packed type of deal. So all the John Wick movies, I'm really into them. I keep them recorded. I watch them every now and then. So yeah, I would have to say 1, 2, and 3. They were all very good, and for me, that's it. So I'd say yeah, John Wick is definitely my favorite.
All right, now what's your favorite music?
Rap music, actually. People don't think that about me because a lot of times I listen to country going down the road and stuff like that. But when it comes to getting in a race car, I'm all over Eminem and his hate music, and it really gets me pumped up, and it's just one of those things. So yeah, but I do like rap from all different genres, and I listen to pretty much anything except for like opera, so to speak. But old school rock and roll still is good because I grew up in that era. But for some reason, when it comes down to it, I will definitely pick an Eminem song over anything else to get me ready for something.
All right, now what was your favorite cartoon when you were growing up as a kid?
You know what? And I've looked for this day to kind of look at stuff and go back and forth, but Speed Racer definitely was my favorite. I could not miss one of those at all. They had another one called Gigantor. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but that was kind of a hit and miss type of cartoon, and I thought that was cool. But by far, Speed Racer was, I would not miss the program. So.
Yeah, I've never heard of the Gigantor one.
I did.
Yeah, it was kind of a.
My wife said she heard of it. My wife said she heard of it.
Did she? Good. Yeah, it didn't play for a lot of years, but I did like it and the way it was set up and everything. But yeah, no, the Speed Racer, and then the movie came out, and of course I had to go see that. I mean, I may be 57, but I'm just a little kid at heart, so
yeah,
I'm good with that.
All right, so now, what would you consider to be your most embarrassing moment on the starting line?
Most embarrassing moment?
Gigantor was from 1964 to 66.
it's just not making it off the starting line, and it wasn't really a driver error type thing. We're in our very first race in, like you said, in 1991, and we're in the Winter Nationals. We've qualified, get up there for first round, and guys start the motor and do the burnout and back up, and they're giving me the shut off, and I'm telling them, no way am I shutting this thing off. And then Buster Couch comes over and gives me the shut off sign. And when Buster Couch comes over to tell you something, you do it. so we shut it off, and it just ended up being a belt. It had a loose fuel line as well, and just that growing pains of the same guys doing the same stuff all the time. So yeah, I was embarrassed because that's hometown for me, and I think we've made it up since then. But at the same time, that was my first time in a fuel car, first day of the season, and to have that happen was definitely embarrassing.
So what's your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue?
Yep.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
A clean house. I am an organizer. I like my race stuff clean, and I like my drawers all clean so I can go back, get parts. And then when it comes to my house is ready for a party at any time because it's clean. And I spent a lot of time doing it. So, but I just grew up that way. My mom and dad said I was always a very clean person. And, if you walked in my house, you'd say, did you just get done cleaning the whole house or what? So, it's just me and my little rescue dog. And we live in about a 100 square foot home. And probably too big for me. So I think I'll probably downsize someday. But right now, we like it here. Got a pool, got kind of our own little backyard, and so we're going to stick with that. But yeah, my pet peeve is dirty houses.
Now, do you do any cooking?
Oh, of course, love to cook. I'm big on pastas, any kind of Mexican food. It's all the asadas and everything else. Do a lot of roasts, turkeys. I do a lot of deep frying. But yes. When you're a bachelor, as long as I am, Dave, you can learn how to cook, bud.
Yeah. So what kind of dog you got?
I have she is black lab and part pointer. I got her 2 years ago at a rescue, and she was on her way out. She was very depressed. She had lost like 30 pounds. I mean, she was just bones, and her name was Money, so obviously she was used for breeding purposes only. So I said, I'll take her. I gave the gal a couple $100, wrote down the thing, and I changed her name to Honey, and walked her to the car and said, your name is now Honey, put her in the truck, and down the road I went, and she is an awesome dog, super smart. She can hold it during the day so I can get some work done if I have to for 5 or 6 hours. And, she is my pal. No matter what kind of crappy day I have, when I come to, she's there wagging her tail, ready for me to give her some loving. So, dogs keep you living longer, bud.
Hey, they say it's man's best friend, right?
That's right, definitely. I truly believe that. I mean, we all have a great woman behind the man. I won't doubt that at all. But when it comes to man's best friend, as far as he loves you, him or her loves you unconditionally.
Right.
And even when they do something wrong, I mean, I can't even look at her and be mad at her. She just like, honey, why did you do that? I got to clean up this big mess. And, but for the most part, she's a great dog, and we're a big lab family. My daughter, I forgot to tell you, my daughter is in veterinarian school. She has a year and a half left, and she'll have her veterinarian license. So when it all settles down, I'll kind of be able to live vicariously through her a little bit. So that's a good thing to know. But our whole family has labs and Cocker Spaniels, that type of deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I just nowadays, since I'm older, I want to give rescue dogs a chance to live the rest of their life like a queen. And man, it didn't take her long enough to come in here and start gaining weight, start pushing me around and sleeps where she wants on the bed, and Yeah, it's pretty much her house, but so, it's just one of those deals.
Nice. Well, Cory, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview today.
No problem. Definitely. I'm sorry it took so long for us to finally get hooked up.